Greetings friends, it's me Lad here. Welcome to the gameplay guide on making branching paths. These are pretty much straight out of Slay the Spire or a whole bunch of roguelike or roguelite games. A lot of them use this kind of branching path, procedurally generated sort of vibe. So if those sorts of things interest you, then you're in the right place. So we're going to start off by going into Sculpt Mode, and we're going to choose just a full donut. I'm just going to put down the thing that kind of counts as the sort of node, you know, like the meeting point between the paths. So the way that I like to think of it is it's made up of nodes and paths. So paths will go from each node to another. Now that we've got a little node here, I'm going to do a path, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to go into cube, then I'm going to press L1 and square while we're in sculpt mode and just increase the length of it, so it's a bit of a long one. Lovely, lovely. And I'll just put that down. Then I'm going to make this dude invisible. Cha-ching. Now he's invisible. I'm going to go into show and hide and turn preview invisibility off. Now I'm going to go into paint mode. And this is kind of just an aesthetic thing, but we're going to go fleck type, we're going to make it heavy. Color, we're going to make it black. And then we're going to go into tools and go rule flex. Then we're going to go guides and say surface snap. And what this is going to allow us to do is create a nice little pirate mappy kind of dotted line from one node to another. And it can be a little bit rough, you know, it depends on the kind of game you're going for. You can just forego this stylistic thing altogether, but I think it looks quite cool. Then we're going to make this part of a group. Fabulous. Then we're going to put down a little tag, stamp it on there, and we're going to call this tag path active, and we're going to turn it off. So this is the essential element, and I'm just going to copy this and put it over here because that's just going to be like our little test dude in case we stuff anything up or we just need a fresh one. So there we are. So now we have our little node and we have a pathway. Now to get this stuff working. So first we're going to go into our node and we're going to go trigger zone. And we're going to place it on the node, and then we're going to make it so that it's going to be searching for, we're going to go into it, scope into its tweak menu. Things to detect are going to be path active. We can make this quite a bit smaller. And because this is the first node, it's not going to have any other paths sort of reaching into it. So we're actually going to take a path active tag, put it right next to it here, and make it active. Because of course the original node is always going to be active, or the original node you're always going to be able to move from it. But other nodes will only be active if there's actually a path reaching to it. But this will all make sense once we get stuck in earnest. Alrighty. The next thing we're going to do is go into logic and processing and put down a nice little microchip. Okay, cool. And we can call this node logic. Not nerd, node. Fabulous. Alrighty, now that we have our node logic there, what we're going to do is we're going to put down a little randomizer. And we're just going to leave it, put it to one side for now. Then we're going to copy this dude and we're going to move it to the other side over here. And then press left to do a little clone. And now we have 3 paths that branch out. Then what we're going to want to do is, we remember that this dude over here is invisible, and that's fine, that can stay invisible forever. But each of these dudes, which is the groups in other words, the group including the little path painting and the little block itself, we're going to make all of those invisible as well. Then we're going to go with our randomizer, put down a nice little keyframe, and in that keyframe we're going to make this visible, and also very important, we're going to make the path active. Alrighty. Then we're going to make another 2 keyframes doing the exact same. Just like that. Alrighty. So friends, now we have the leftmost path is going to be active, the middle path, and the right path. Alrighty. So now what we want to do with this randomizer is make it so that there are various versions of which paths can be active at a time, and it's going to be randomly decided. So we can have it so that the left path and the middle path is active. So we'll connect that to A. Then we can have it so that the middle path and the right path is active. And then let's make it C, and C will be all of them are active. So in other words, we can have a situation where this and this is active, that and that is active, or all three of them are active. And that's as simple as it is, just like that. Let's see if it works. We'll turn off preview invisibility. We'll restart. Now I'm going to just press play and restart a few times. So we've got all three, bottom two, all three. So you see, if we open this now, we'll see that A is active, and as we know, these keyframes are for the leftmost one and the middle one, so those ones are highlighted. There's number C, there's C again, there's B. So now we know that all of these various things work, and it's randomly decided which one is going to work there. Okay friends, so the next thing we want to do is actually copy this base node that we've got here. So we're going to go preview invisibility, then we're going to select all of these various elements and make it into a group. Then we're actually going to take this node and this trigger zone, grab it, and then we're going to make it so that it surface snaps with L1 to the entire group. Alrighty, so now if I make a copy, alrighty, I just want to make sure that our trigger zone is part of this group as well. Cool. So we're going to copy it with our trigger zone and all, and that looks fabulous. Alrighty. One change I'm going to make is, well, I'm just going to get this extra path out of the way. I'm just going to delete this node over here, or this pathway, that extra pathway, so that we have just two branching paths. Then I can go into the node logic, delete this keyframe, because of course we know that this keyframe affects the top, this keyframe affects the middle, which is now the bottom one, so we can get rid of this one because it doesn't affect anything, because we deleted that extra one. Then we can remove all these connections. We'll make it so that the first outcome is that the top one will be activated, the second outcome is that the bottom one will be activated, and the third outcome is that both of them will be activated. So we'll connect both of those to C. Make sure there are only the amount of ports that there are connections to it, because if it lands on D, for example, and there's no connections, and it doesn't make any paths, then your player could come to a dead end, and that'll just break your game. Alrighty. Unless, of course, that's the like final boss level, or whatever. Okay, sweet. So now, what we can see here is, if we turn off preview invisibility, we can see a path system that is beginning. Very nice. However, one sort of glitch, or just a bit of a pain at the moment, is that if there isn't a path leading to it, this thing is still showing up. So what we're going to do now is make it so that if there isn't a path connecting to this particular node, it's not going to be visible. So the way that we're going to do that is, we're going to turn off preview invisibility, and we're going to make it so that by default, our particular little node over here is going to not be visible. Then we'll go into our node logic and put down a little keyframe. In this keyframe, we're going to make it so that the node is visible. Then we're just going to go to that keyframe, keep changes, power on, because by default nodes, the keyframes rather, don't have power. Alrighty, so now let's have a look. So at the moment it's invisible. No connection, it's not going to show up. There is a connection and it does show up. Alrighty friends, then that is actually pretty much the core of what happens. After that you can pretty much copy the second kind of node, the double branching node. You can make various adjustments as you like so that it sort of fits together, or the paths line up. But you can also, I feel like, have it a little bit rustic and a little bit imperfect as well, you know, so it gives it that kind of drawn map vibe. If you are going for like a Slay the Spire kind of a vibe. And really, I can pretty much just go to town and have a fun time with this. And just keep copying these various branches. Alrighty. look more at the lines than the original clay sort of blocks, because the lines are the only thing that the player will see. Alrighty friends, now let's see if this works. I've got sort of a nice half of a pineapple sort of structure going on here. I'm going to go preview invisibility, and let's see what happens. So there we have one sort of path system. Restart, completely different path system. Completely different one again. Another totally different one. So this is basically like a way to procedurally generate a bunch of random pathways. You can make this, you can really have a lot of fun with this. As you can see, if we go preview invisibility, there's multiple potential ways that a node can be activated. So there's a path here that can activate it, because if we look at this particular trigger zone over here, we'll actually see that it has, it can sort of detect a path active over here or a path active over there. And in that way, it can actually make it so that you can have multiple pathways to a single node and multiple ways to activate it. And really, friends, you can just be like ridiculous. I think I'll maybe just speed up this part. Alrighty, so now we have an even larger one, and I think what we'll do is we'll make it so that these ones on the edge will actually only have one potential path. So in that way, you don't have to have the randomizer at all, or you can just make it sort of like you can just delete it altogether. Make sure it has power though. So if it gets power, it's going to then turn on this particular dude. Let's make sure it's actually going to power it up. So as we did before, we're going to make it visible, and we're going to turn on the path active. Alrighty, and we can have that for that top one, and we can copy that one as well over here, and just do it like this. And then we can sort of like narrow down the path so that it comes to a kind of an end. We do sort of like the edge ones first. Alrighty. That seems cool. Then we can mess around. Sorry if this is messing with your brains right now. It is a bit of a funky perspective. And then we can go like this. And then we'd most likely end up with like a nice boss wave at the end there. Alrighty. Okay, cool. And in this boss wave, we can just make that a node, just like the original one. And this node can have no randomizer, no paths. It'll just, actually forget about that. We'll take one of these, and this one will have no path, no randomizer. It'll just appear when it detects that there's a path to it. Alrighty friends, so here we have our nice pineapple here. I call this the pineapple strat. And let's see it in action. So preview invisibility, of course, by default, we'll see nothing. But let's see what happens when we start playing. So here we have a path. A whole bunch of crazy, totally unique paths, so that every time you play the game, you're going to have a different route, a different play system, a different path you could potentially take. Alrighty friends, if you want to differentiate between nodes, for example making one like a rest node and one sort of boss node and an enemy node, or an unknown sort of a node, I'm going to be doing a part 2 video where I go into a bit more of that logic, but I thought I would just get the structure and the design down because I thought those were important elements. But yes friends, I hope you enjoyed this. The core aspect of it is to have that starting node with just a randomizer, a trigger zone, and a tag that will be activated. And yes, friends, that's pretty much all there is to it. It's actually quite simple, as I'm sure you've seen. But, of course, if you have any questions, do let me know. I'm keen to get stuck in and involved with any questions you might have. But yes, friends, happy dreaming, and I shall see you soon. Peace out, friends.